Hi, everybody. My name is Julie Ferniars. I'm the Executive Director of the Greenwich Alliance for Education, and I am welcoming you to our AVID Success Career Panel. And thank you very much for giving your time to the Greenwich Alliance and to the students in the AVID class today. So now I'm going to go off video, and Natalie, you're going to take it from here.
Okay, great. So welcome to Mr. Olmsted's AVID class. We'd like to start by hearing from one of our panelists, Tina.
Hi, how are you? My name is Tina Carpenteri. Can you guys all hear me good? Yeah, okay, great. So currently I am the COO at Garden Catering. My career path didn't start out leading me here, so I'll tell you a little bit about that. I graduated from Quinnipiac back when it was a college in 2000. Now it's Quinnipiac University. I graduated with a bachelor's in psychology and immediately went on for my master's in school psychology, which is actually a 6-year degree. It's like having 2 masters. I went to Fairfield University for that. I was able to pay for college through a combination of loans, grants, and support from my family. I did work with the Greenwich Scholarship Association, also with my guidance counselor on figuring out the best loans and grants that were available at that time. For grad school, I paid for that on my own. Unfortunately, there wasn't anything available at that time for me with loans, but I was able to pay for that as I was working through grad school. For my graduate degree, it took 3 years. 2 years were mainly in classroom, and then about a year was doing a full-time internship. I eventually ended up working in the public schools in Stamford as an elementary level school psychologist. And I really enjoyed that for 6 years. At the same time, my family has owned Garden Catering for over 25 years. So I've always been involved in the business. I probably started working when I was 16 and a variety of positions, whether it was working in the front of the store, taking orders, working catering events, helping out in the office. And as the business began to grow, I became more invested in the business. My brother graduated college a year after me, and about 2 years after graduation, he decided to join the family business full time. I was helping him out, and we had a great relationship working together as me, him, and my dad. So after about 6 years of working as a school psychologist, I decided to take a break and work for the family business full time. And it's been about 13 years now, and I run pretty much the daily operations of 8 locations. So anything from hiring, scheduling, just putting out fires along the way, helping the managers to run their stores more effectively by managing their labor and their food costs. I also run the catering department. So anything from like a large scale graduation party to, cocktail events to your just regular trays of nuggets and cones, I handle all of that. We probably have about 100 staff that work for us. So I help to manage all of those with the help of my district manager and the store managers as well. So how do you get started in a career? Well, if you want to be a school psychologist, I would suggest doing anything that has to do with being around kids and helping kids. So if you really love kids, you're going to enjoy being around them on a daily basis. You're going to enjoy helping them to problem solve and work through their feelings. The love I have for children probably came from the fact that I have 4 younger brothers and sisters that I help to basically raise because they're much younger than me. And so for me, it was always working with kids. As I became more interested in school psychology, I talked to professionals and got their opinion, but really just went on my own experience in working with children. And I knew that that was the direction I wanted to go. And if you're interested in the food portion, I would say that you have to start from the bottom. I mean, in order to be successful as a COO, you have to really know how to operate in every position in the business. So from dishwasher to cutting chicken nuggets, to cooking the nuggets, to taking orders, to getting in a van and driving it to an event and setting up a grill. I can do it all. I don't love doing it all, but you have to be able to do it in order to point out the things that maybe the employees aren't doing the right way, or what they're doing isn't efficient. So really just starting at the bottom and working your way up and knowing the entire business. And I'll end with like a quick little feel-good story. Not sure if all of you are aware, but last week we did a fundraiser for the Ukraine. We worked with World Central Kitchen. They're right outside of the border in Poland, and they're feeding people in Poland and in the Ukraine. And we donated 100% of the proceeds from the special last Wednesday, and we sold over 1,000 specials. Which was pretty amazing. So we donated over $10,000 to World Central Kitchen. And that was probably the best part of my week.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome.
Oh,
So
thank you.
I thank you for speaking. I guess I'll hand it over to the students. Does anybody have any questions? Is anybody wondering about what a day as a school psychologist looks like?
Natalie, can I interrupt 1 second? Could we have the other speakers tell their thing and then go back to the student questions? Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's do that, just to give everybody, and then the kids can, on their sheets that they have, they could be writing down some questions and things to get ready for the next.
Sounds great.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Right, so can we go over to Patrick? Or, yeah, could we go over to Patrick?
Sure. Good morning, scholars. My name is Patrick Briggs. I have the privilege of being the AVID Northeast Area Director. So I live in New York City, and I support any school or district that has the AVID college readiness system from Maine to Delaware. You are a part of a very large AVID family. AVID's in 16 countries. So right now in Japan, there are students who are finishing Cornell notes. Right now in Australia, there are students who are finishing, well, they're 17 hours ahead of us, so maybe not right now. But they are students who are preparing for a Socratic seminar in their AVID elective class. So you're a part of a large AVID family. You're probably hearing a slight accent. You're saying he's not from New York City. No, I spent the first 50 years or so of my life in the state of Texas, but got here as soon as I could. So the accent you're hearing is Southern Texas. So I went to college in Texas, Prairie View A&M University. There are a lot of schools that have A&M in their title, and it stands for Agricultural and Mechanical University, which was a title given to schools back in the 1800s, when that was what jobs were. They were agricultural or mechanical. So Prairie View A&M University is an HBCU, which stands for Historically Black College and University. So I wanted to attend an HBCU, and there are a lot of them in the South. Most of them were started after the Civil War because slaves were free at that point and were not allowed to go to school with people of a different color. So there are a lot of schools, especially in the South, that are historically Black colleges and universities. And so I attended one of the best, Prairie View A&M University. I majored in biology. I do not use that degree at all today. Not one bit. I remember some of it. So if you're thinking y'all are 10th graders and you probably had life science or biology at this point, I used to teach that. I remember none of it because I don't use that degree at all. But that degree did help me to get where I was going. Of course, I had no idea where I was going. And it's okay if you don't. So know that the jobs that you'll have in the next, 10 years or so, a lot of them don't even exist. The job I have right now, when I was your age, it didn't exist. Think about it. I grew up before cell phones. I guess you all, you probably have some device on you. Those didn't exist when I was your age. We actually had to wait till we got home and use a phone that was attached to the wall via a cord. So texting and driving is not a problem for me because I didn't grow up with it. So the ding on my phone goes off. I'm like, oh, they can wait, because that's what we did when I was your age. Yeah, people could wait. Uh, so I got a master's degree in education. I am using that one. So biology was my way to become a school teacher. That's what I wanted to be. I had great teachers like your teacher who changed my life, who put me on a different path. And I said, I want to do that. I want to help kids just the way you helped me. But when you're a secondary teacher, you don't major in education, you kind of major in what you teach. So if you say, I want to be a physics teacher, you're not going to major in education. You're going to major in physics, because you're going to have to teach that to high school kids. So I majored in biology, and that's what I taught to middle school and high school students. I got a master's degree. It took me 2 years. Most of my friends now do it in one. You can get a master's degree online at home. And most of my friends now get a master's degree in 1 year. It took me 2, but again, that was before online classes. I had to physically show up to school. Most of my friends now are like, you went to school? Turns out you don't have to anymore. You see how the world has changed in just that short amount of time. So my career does require a graduate degree. You know, I always tell people I'm not smart. I have a piece of paper called a master's degree. You could do my job. Let's just be honest, because my job is about supporting schools. You know, you as AVID students, you know about tutorials and Socratic seminars and focused note taking. You have training pretty close to a first-year teacher. You have that type of pedagogy or the study of education behind you. You could think about it. Could you teach second grade? Sure you could. Trust me. Why won't we let you? You don't have a piece of paper called a bachelor's degree. It's just required to be a school teacher. Doesn't make me smart, doesn't make me better. It gives me opportunities and options solely based on a piece of paper. And that's why I went back and got a piece of paper called a master's degree, because I doubled my salary by having a piece of paper. I literally doubled my yearly salary because I got a second piece of paper. I want you all to go on and get that third piece of paper, that doctorate. I don't have one, but I could triple my salary if I did. I'm well over 50. I'm not going back to get it, but think about that. Let me see. I want to make sure the other panelists get a chance to speak. So I am just going to say, how do you get started in a career like mine? First, you know, figure out what you want to do. And it's okay if you don't know. A lot of us, maybe we'll speak about that, changed our majors in college. I thought I wanted to be an actor. You can tell I have a theater background. I thought I wanted to be an actor, so I switched to that. And then I wanted to be in communications, so I switched to that. What I'm going to say is, if you're not sure, just take your basics. Because what you don't want to do is major in theater for 2 years and then decide you want to be a doctor, because then it's a whole different set of classes. But the way I did it was, when I changed majors, I made sure it wasn't going to add years to me staying in school, because I changed and needed a whole separate set of classes. So I look forward to your questions, but we'll let the other panelists go ahead and introduce themselves.
Thank you. Can we move on to Hope?
Hey guys, my name is Hope. I graduated from Greenwich High School in 2008, and now I am a vascular surgery resident, which means I'm training to be a vascular surgeon. And I'm doing that at Duke in Durham, North Carolina. So I will talk a little bit about how you end up becoming, I guess, specifically a surgeon, but also, you know, this applies to any type of doctor you might want to be. So after I graduated high school, I went to Yale, and actually I studied English, which I actually use more than you would think in my daily life. I didn't, I just did sort of the basic pre-med classes, and did the rest of my stuff was all reading like old poetry. I think that that's a great approach. Like, you don't have to be a biology major or physics major or chemistry major, any of those things. I find those subjects actually very difficult. Depending on what type of doctor you end up in the long run being, different people have sort of different proclivities towards different types of science. I'm sort of like a physicsy type person. I like fixing things. When I was little, I liked building things at home and working around little problems and putting together weird machines. And so that tended to be more important to me than the college education I got. I paid for college really with help from my parents. And then for medical school, which, as you guys all know, you have to go to be a doctor. I paid for that with help from my grandparents. I will say that's not normal for most people who go to medical school. Most of my friends who are doctors now, who I work with, they took out loans to pay for medical school, and some of them for college as well, which sounds really scary. And in a lot of ways it is, but I will say, sort of as a separate topic that I'm happy to talk about, all of my friends who did that are actually getting their loans repaid by the federal government. So because of the jobs that we have in certain hospitals that we work at, everyone I know is getting their loans covered. So it seems scary, but it ends up being okay. I'm looking at the questions I have to answer. Yes, as I mentioned, being a doctor does require a graduate degree. It requires an MD. That generally takes 4 years. There are some college programs that combine undergraduate college degree and an MD at the same time and do it in 7 years. So, you can shave 1 year off. I actually ended up taking 1 year extra to do a little bit of extra research time during medical school. So it took me 5 years. And then when I graduated, when you graduate from medical school, you decide what type of doctor you want to train to be, and you go to something called residency. And during residency, you take care of patients with a sort of senior supervising doctor looking over you, and making sure that you're learning what you need to learn and that you're being safe and doing things correctly. And so that can be anywhere from 3 years if you just want to be sort of a standard internal medicine doctor, the type of person you might maybe like your parents might see as a primary care doctor, all the way up to, for some people, it can take up to 12 years, which is really long. My training will take 8 years, but actually I could have done it in 5. But I'm taking extra time to do more research again. So people make different choices. And when you are a resident, you are a real doctor and you do get paid. So that's something. The day-to-day of specifically a surgeon is really fun and exciting. I really love my job, and I think it's like a huge privilege to get to take care of patients. And I really like to use my hands. Like, I just like to be doing things all day. I like to be on my feet and running around and working in teams. And those are all things that I do as a surgeon. So basically I get to the hospital around 5 o'clock in the morning, which I realize sounds horrible when you are in high school, but I promise as you get older, it gets easier to do. Even in medical school, I found it really hard, and now it's not so hard. And so once I get to the hospital, I make sure that all of my patients have labs and I know what happened to them overnight. And then we go around as a big team and we go see all of our patients who we're responsible for. And we wake them up, unfortunately, early and see what's going on and how they're doing. And I do that in a team that includes medical students and then also nurse practitioners and physician assistants. Those are 2 other jobs that also do a lot of the same work that I do, but require less school. So a lot of my friends are actually PAs or physician assistants. And depending on what type of hospital they're working in or what type of specialty, some of them even do parts of operations. So a lot of my friends like it because they work less than me and they make more money than me right now. So I don't know why anyone would do my job anyways, but they, in the longer term, they sort of stay doing that job forever. Whereas as a surgeon, I will one day be doing sort of having a little bit more responsibility and taking care of more patients in sort of a more intense way. So after we round on patients, we go to the operating room and we operate. And so vascular surgeons operate on any blood vessel that is not the heart and not the brain. So that's basically, if you've heard of your aorta that carries blood from your heart all the way down to basically your belly, then it splits so that you can get blood to both legs. There's an artery version, basically, and a vein version. We operate on all of that. And it's very fun. So if you're someone who likes physics and likes, if you don't even have to understand physics, like I don't understand it well, but like if you can understand plumbing pretty well, or how cars work, or you know, carpentry, like how things fit together, and you like using your hands, and you like working with people who are different from you, then surgery can be a really cool field. And even if you don't want to go through all the trouble of going to medical school and going to residency, you can still work in surgery as a nurse practitioner or a PA, and that requires just college and then 2 years, if you're going to be a PA, 2 years of PA school, and no residency, so much faster. And then the last thing that I would say is that I started out in like a different form of medicine, and I thought that I couldn't handle something that was like more intense or more high paced, high pressure. So I started out in plastic surgery, which is a little bit different, and I switched types of surgery, which sounds like, you know, not that big of a deal, but I had already got into a different residency program and done a year of it before I changed my mind. And it ruffled a lot of feathers and made some people pretty unhappy, but in my life, it was certainly a better choice. And so I think that, you know, a lot of people feel like, oh, I've already invested so much time and effort, like I'm just going to keep doing this thing, even if it's not quite right. And I would say that no matter what you decide to do, even if you decide to, you know, go be an actor for 3 years. I have friends who did that and then went to medical school, or, you know, something different. So you can always change your mind. And there are plenty of people who don't go straight from college to medical school to residency. They do all sorts of other things. And I think that's really a benefit for them and for everyone else who gets to work with them.
Thank you so much. That was really interesting. Now can we hear from Gabriel?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Gabriel Sid. I graduated Greenwich High School in 1993, a very long time ago. I went to Hamilton College in upstate New York, and I graduated in 1997. From there, I got a master's in accounting from the University of Hartford in 1998. So when I went to Hamilton, I started with the dreams of becoming a Sega game developer. And Sega, it was the console before PlayStation. And I was all set and excited. I took a bunch of comp sci courses, and Hamilton College is, I don't know how many of you know, but it's a liberal arts school, which I didn't realize that would not be that great for a computer science developer. In my sophomore year, when I was already in my like 5th or 6th computer science course, they wanted us to write a spell checker on paper. And that's when I said, this is not for me. That did not seem very exciting. And I dropped the class, I dropped the major. And at that point I was like, what am I gonna do now? And I had gotten good grades in my econ classes. I was like, well, I'll just major in economics. At Hamilton, that's a very big, popular major. So I did that. I did a major in economics with a minor in Spanish and Russian history. So I just liked the history of Russia, from the language to the literature to the art, military, politics, all that stuff. From there, when I was about to graduate, in the old days, you would fill out a physical application for a job. And in Hamilton, they had these little bins where you would drop your application to the companies that you wanted to apply to. They would mail it for you. And at that point, I wanted to do, because I was an econ major, I wanted to do a consulting type, consulting management type companies. And at that time, one of the big names in the industry was Anderson Consulting. So I filled out an application, dropped it into the folder, and had to wait 2 weeks to hear back. and I got a call back, got an interview. They came to campus and interviewed us. And I sat down and I was getting all these questions and it was going well. And then I guess it was an HR person, and she said, we'd like to have you back for a second round, but can you fill out, our application? I was like, oh, I thought I did already. She goes, well, no, this is for Arthur Anderson. And I was like, well, maybe I was confused. It's like, what did I fill out? It wasn't until I left the interview that I realized that I put the application in the wrong folder. Arthur Anderson's folder was in front of Anderson Consulting. And I ended up applying to a whole different company with a whole different industry. And when they wanted me for a second round interview in Hartford, I was like, I better learn what this auditing is about. So they had these books where you can look up careers, and it said about, travel, and you learn this, you learn that. And then, I was like, this sounds kind of exciting. So I went for the second round interview. They offered me a job, and I was like, I need money after college. And at that point with Arthur Anderson, I was an econ major from a liberal arts school. To become a financial auditor, you need to have an accounting background. So they would sponsor people from liberal arts schools that they considered good candidates to get a graduate degree in accounting. And again, at that point, I had no idea what accounting was either. So I literally graduated on a Friday, and on Monday I started at University of Hartford and started doing my graduate work in accounting. So at the same time we were going to school, we were doing work for Arthur Anderson as first-year hires. So during business season, we would work full-time at Arthur Anderson. And then when it was slower in the summers, we would do full-time school. And the other times we would do half school, half work. So that's how I started my career. And again, in a way I started by mistake, but I ended up loving the challenges that came with being an auditor for a Big Four company. Back then it was, I think, Big Six. Now it's Big Four because more mergers. But I like the diversity in the work. You would go from project to project, client to client, industry to industry. In Hartford, it was a lot of insurance, because Hartford, Connecticut is like the world capital for insurance companies. So a lot of my clients were either insurance or medical clients, small hospitals, that kind of stuff. Then I moved to Ernst & Young in New York, and there I did more internet type companies, financial companies. And then I kind of hooked up with a senior manager and partner who left E&Y, Ernst & Young, and went to KPMG, and they brought me along. And there in KPMG, I spent the bulk of my career as an auditor. And there I worked for big clients such as PepsiCo, General Motors. They actually moved me to Detroit, and I was a dedicated internal auditor for General Motors. And that was probably one of the best experiences of my career. As far as like what's interesting that I remember, I'll always remember, is on the PepsiCo, we did an audit of the biggest factory of any beverage company down in Plano, Texas. It's where they make the bulk of their sodas. And it's amazing to see an operation that large, that scale in person. The other cool thing with General Motors, my work was split between the financial side of General Motors, like the vendor management, the asset management, all the money stuff, and the manufacturing side. Manufacturing side was pretty cool. In particular, I remember this one engagement where we did 5 auto plants in 5 weeks. So we would arrive at a plant on a Monday, audit until Friday, go home for the weekend, pack new clothing, and then do another plant the following Monday. We did that for 5 weeks. And one of the plants was down in Shreveport, Louisiana. And I actually had to see the first Hummer 3 or H3 roll off the line and get packaged up and driven to a truck to get delivered to the first person to own the first H3. It was like this big celebrity moment for this one amazing vehicle to come off the line. The CEO of GM was there, all these big wigs and press were there to see the first H3 roll off the line. And I just happened to be there that week for the audit. And seeing a truck being built is an amazing thing if you've never seen it. To see something of that scale, of that precision, where literally the seats come in from a truck, get parked just as the truck gets to that part of the assembly line, and the seats get put in, the light bulbs get put in by one person. His whole job is to put in like the left tail light. That's his job. And the trucks are lifted up and down based on the person's height. And it's an amazing operation. And that was by far one of my best memories of working for a Big Four. So I spent about 10 years as a Big Four auditor, and then I left public accounting. Because public accounting, there's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. And either you stay in public accounting and go towards becoming a partner, or you jump off to the private sector for one of your clients or some other private company. So that's what I did. I went to a small media holding company called MDC Partners as an IT auditor. So I began as an IT auditor for MDC Partners, and we were a holding company and we owned different media companies. You never heard of MDC, but you heard of the agencies and the work that we produced. One of the big things that we created was the whole King concept of Burger King. That was an idea that one of our agencies in Florida came up with, the whole King creation. So there was a lot of work. We did some Super Bowl work for the NFL. Some of those big commercials that we're all seeing came out of our agency in San Diego. So from there, I spent about 2 years as an IT auditor, and this is where being in the right place at the right time comes into play. At that point, not my boss, but the chief accounting officer for the company came to me and said, listen, we need some help in the financial systems side. Are you willing to take this on? And I've always audited financial systems, but I've never done one, right? So it's a very different thing to audit something and review something to actually doing it from the other side. And I took it as a challenge. I was like, yeah, if you give me the training, I'll give it a shot. And that's what I've been doing for the last 15 years. We've moved from different systems since then. We actually got bought out by another company. So now I work legally for a Stagewell, but it's the same kind of idea, just at a larger scale. So my day-to-day job is managing the financial system. So we have now over 200 entities around the world that have their own financial books, their own systems where they keep track of their money, assets, liabilities. They submit to our system that I manage at the end of the month, and then we consolidate all the information and make sure that people at the corporate side where we work have the information ready to make decisions and analysis and figure out trends, figure out how we're doing against budget, how we're doing compared to last year, previous quarters. So right now we're literally about to begin our Q1, which is our first quarter. So as soon as I get off the phone, I got several other meetings to go to because for the next 2 or 3 weeks, it's gonna be pretty crazy because the merger brought on a lot of challenges. We merged companies. We have 25 companies in this brand new system that just came on 2 months ago. So this will be their first quarter in this new system. So there's a lot of challenges. And the one thing I tell people about my job is I can come in and have a game plan to the 3 things I want to do today. I may never get to them because 5 other things pop up in the morning and throughout the day that become more urgent. So there's never a boring time. The quarters and the year-end work is very exhausting, a lot of work. But if you go into the accounting field, whether you're public accounting or private accounting, you expect that quarter ends, month ends, year ends, you're going to work a little harder and a little longer during those times. So yeah, my career, I didn't need to have a graduate degree to start as an auditor. You do need an accounting degree. So if I had gone to an accounting undergrad and gotten an accounting degree, that would have been okay to start with a big 4 agency or a second tier agency. But since I had an econ degree, they offered us the opportunity to get an accounting degree. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to work with Anderson. And as far as the payments for undergrad at Hamilton, back then it was relatively cheaper than it is now. So with grants, scholarships, and help from my mom, I was able to pay for that. For grad school, again, I didn't live on campus, so it wasn't as expensive. And I was now employed at a company, so they helped us pay for that. And so yeah, we paid for that out of our own pocket for University of Hartford. And I think that's it. So I want to leave enough time for the Q&A. So I thank you guys for your time and good luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. I'm Evan Olmsted. I'm the classroom teacher, but my daughter had to get to the doctor this morning, so I was a little bit late. Thank you to Ms. Wibby for covering. My daughter lost a fingernail to an ice skate on Friday, so we went to see the doc, and looks like she's doing okay. We're going to leave some time for questions. So we've got about 19, 20 students in the classroom, and they've been taking some notes. So we'll call on the students, and then hopefully this mic will be effective to get everybody's questions across, but if not, I can always restate them and we'll go from there. So, okay, so who has a question? All right, so we'll start with Ellen Nicole. You're gonna have to speak up, okay? Because the mic's way over here.
It's for Dr. Weissler.
Dr. Weissler. Okay, question for Dr. Weissler.
What classes did she take in high school to get where she is now?
Okay, the question is, what classes did you take in high school to get to where you are now?
I didn't take anything too special. I took the only like special science class I took was AP Bio. And I just took honors physics. I didn't do anything crazy with that. And I did take AP Chemistry, which I found very difficult, and probably one of my least favorite classes I've ever taken. So I would say like I am not an amazing science student. And you don't necessarily have to be to end up being a doctor or, especially being a surgeon. I think there are certain types of doctors who tend to be really science minded, like oncologists or nephrologists, or certain types of medicine that rely really heavily on biology and chemistry, which were not my strong suits. Surgery often tends to rely a little bit more on physics, which I found more intuitive, and is more about like understanding the world and how water flows through a pipe from point A to point B. So I didn't do too much special in high school. I will say that I don't know if you guys still do senior internships. I did my senior internship working in a doctor's office, basically as a receptionist, and just answering phones and figuring out how scheduling worked and seeing what it was like for patients to come in through the door. And then I ended up working in that doctor's office for the whole summer. And so that was sort of like my entrance into seeing, what it's like to be in the medical world and what sorts of people work in it and what patients are like. That's all I did in high school.
Okay, thanks very much. Next question is from Danny. Let me point the camera your way, Danny.
My question's also for her. How do you think you managed to get into Yale? Because as soon as I heard that, I just thought that was very impressive. How do you think that was achievable for you?
I mean, I think for everyone who gets into those sorts of colleges, like the number one thing, honestly, is luck. And that's not like obviously the hard work and everything like that goes into it. And I will also say that I was very lucky in that my dad had gone, so that really helped. I will also say though, that now that I work at Duke now, which is sort of considered to be one of the really good surgical programs in the country, surgical training programs. And most of my friends here, like the vast majority, did not go to Ivy League schools. And when I was growing up, it didn't really I think I was always told you have to go to an Ivy League school, or you really have to try to go to an Ivy League school. And most of the people I know now went to state schools. For instance, a lot of them went to University of Wisconsin or University of Michigan or University of Texas, all those sorts of places. And we all ended up in exactly the same place. So it's really not essential that you go to some crazy name school. I loved my undergraduate education and it was amazing, and I'm so happy I went. But I think I wish someone had told me at the time when I was in high school that it would be okay if I didn't go to Yale.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, next question is, we'll go to Melanie and then over to Kelly. So let me turn the camera this way. Melanie, go ahead.
My question's also for her. And you were talking about how you took English. Did you get a degree on it?
Did I what?
Get a degree on it?
In English?
A degree in English, right?
Yeah, I did my undergraduate degree in English.
How is that useful?
Good question. So I do part of some surgeons and doctors do research as well. And they do research. Some of it's very sciencey research with cells in a lab. As you can tell, probably I don't do that. I do research using data that people generate just being part of the health system, right? Every time you go to the doctor's office, there's a record that gets generated that says you were there and what you were treated for and stuff like that. And so I do research using that type of data. And a lot of what I do is work with statisticians who give me big chunks of like numbers and I write about it to make it make sense to other people. So actually a lot of what I do, especially right now, I'm doing some research time. A lot of what I do is writing. And so I have found that the ability to just like read and understand and then write about it in a way that other people can understand has been really valuable.
All right, Kelly, you got to speak up. Kelly's way in the back over here. Question for Patrick.
What classes in college or high school would you recommend to get a job like yours?
So the question is, what classes in college or high school would you recommend to get a job like yours?
Wow, that's a great question. You know, the best courses I took that helped me today, there are two. Typing, which we called keyboarding for some reason. Typing is the one class that I took in high school that I still use today, and I'm grateful I took it when I was in 10th grade or 11th grade. And then speech, the ability to communicate. So any theater or speech, you know, the number one fear of people is getting up and speaking in front of a crowd. That has never been an issue for me. I don't understand that fear when people say, oh, I could never speak in front of 10,000 people in a stadium. I'm like, that's really not a big deal. But it's because I had the training and the background and the opportunity to do that. So for me, the courses were anything that was about public speaking, since that's people's number one fear, and I don't have it. I'm afraid to fly. Go figure. So I envy people who aren't afraid to get on planes. But I realize my other gift is I can speak in front of 50,000 people in a stadium and it doesn't bother me at all. And I like doing it. So keyboarding, typing, because as you heard other panelists say that, you know, writing, we all write. That's something that we all do. It really helps when you can type 100 words a minute accurately. That helps. And then speech, being able to speak and entertain and get your message across verbally. Yeah. Thanks for the question.
All right, we got about 4 more minutes, so we got a few more questions. Let's go to Sean next. Sean, go ahead.
I have a question for Gabriel.
Okay, questions for Gabriel. Yep.
I was Greenwich like high school in 1993. Right? Is that what you said? Yeah.
It feels like, well, to me, it felt huge, but I've been back to see my kids at the high school, and it's. I guess your school is a lot bigger now than when I was there. It's hard for me to say how it was different because I haven't been at the high school in a long time. I liked my time at the high school. Back at least when I went to the high school, I came from public schools in New York City. So to go from a public school in New York City to Greenwich High School was a complete shock, culture shock, you know, every kind of shock you can imagine. But I liked the challenge because at that point, Greenwich High School, I think, was the #2 public school in the country. So it was an extremely challenging school and very competitive. You know, I had a lot of my peers who, you know, we were very competitive with each other. And I always tell people that the decision to go to Greenwich High School is what changed my life because I was able to push my education to high levels. You know, I took advantage of all the honors programs. I took advantage of photography, which I still do photography now. I don't know if any of you ever had Mr. Lake as photography. I know he was there for a very long time. My kids had Mr. Lake for photography there. And so just the ability to learn different things, be a thinker, question things, all that foundation I got at the high school to kind of not accept things for what they are, question them, think, be able to present your ideas clearly, how to look someone in the eye and express a thought or challenge someone in a respectful way. All that foundation I learned at the high school from teachers, but also from my peers. We were always learning from each other. So I hope that's still the case now, but yeah, that was my experience back in the old days in 1993.
Okay, next question is from Danny.
How different was it going from being a school psychologist to running a business?
And that's for Tina.
That's for Tina.
Okay, so for Tina, how different is it to go from being a school psychologist to running a business?
So it is very different, but it's also very similar. I use a lot of what I learned in studying psychology. I still use today because I talk with people all day long, and all different types of people. Obviously, I engage with my employees, but I also talk with catering clients. And sometimes when you're on the phone with them, you need to, kind of work with them through their struggles of planning a party. So you're coaching them through what is best for them, and obviously very different than coaching someone through like an anxiety provoking situation. But the ability to engage with people and to understand where they're coming from, I think is very important, especially as someone who manages about 100 people, to put yourself in their position when you need to talk to them about something, just understanding where they're coming from and how you can relate to them. I think that's probably one of the biggest similarities. And also the day-to-day of the business that I'm in right now, and also working in a school, kind of go into the day having a plan, and that plan can easily fall apart based on what's going on. So if I come into work today and I have, a few catering orders that come in last minute or some staff that are out, my day can kind of get a little bit frantic, but I just, kind of roll with that. And that's something I've always been really good at. And then if you go into a school and there's a child that's having difficulty transitioning that day, or someone that's having, a little bit of a problem that day, it can kind of throw off your day a little bit, and you just have to be able to roll with it.
All right, thank you so much to all of our presenters, and I apologize for being a little bit late this morning, but thank you again to Ms. Wibby for making this happen today. So have a great day, everybody, and I'll stick around if anybody has any follow-up comments or questions as they leave the room. If you have a chance to stick around as well, maybe we'll just give people a minute if there's any last questions.
And panelists, I think I asked this before, but you're okay with if students had follow-up questions, can they use your emails that we've provided? Okay, I just want to make sure. I appreciate it. I learned something new. I learned a lot of really interesting and new things about all of you. So thank you for speaking today.